For decades, Americans have been told one simple sentence: buy a house because renting is throwing money away. Your parents believed it. Your grandparents believed it. Real estate agents repeat it. Even millionaires on social media say it. Buy as soon as you can, or you'll never build wealth. But what if one of the biggest financial decisions of your life has been explained the wrong way? Right now, millions of renters feel guilty for not owning a home. At the same time, millions of homeowners lie awake wondering if buying was the biggest mistake they've ever made. Both groups can't be right, so which one is? Here's something almost nobody tells you. In some parts of America, buying the wrong house could leave you hundreds of thousands of dollars worse off than renting. In other places, waiting too long to buy could cost you just as much. Same country, same economy, completely different outcome. Today, we're not following opinions, we're following the money. We're going to uncover the hidden costs banks rarely mention, why so many people become house poor after buying their dream home, and why renting isn't automatically throwing money away. By the end, you'll have a simple way to figure out which choice actually fits your life. And the answer isn't what most people expect. Let's start with the mistake almost everyone makes before they even sit down to do the math. Someone probably told you something like this: my rent is $2,300 a month, but my mortgage would only be $2,400. For just another $100, I might as well buy. It sounds logical. It's exactly how millions of Americans make this decision. And it's exactly where they go wrong, because your mortgage payment is only one piece of the puzzle. Picture walking into a car dealership. The salesperson tells you the payment is only $400 a month. You smile, it fits your budget, you sign. Then they casually mention you'll also need insurance, fuel, maintenance, and registration. Suddenly that $400 car is costing closer to $800. The payment never told you the full story. The same thing happens with a house. The mortgage gets all the attention, but it's just the opening act. The day you buy a home, you inherit a whole new list of expenses renters never think about. Property taxes, insurance, maintenance, closing costs, interest, sometimes HOA fees. None of them look shocking on their own. Together, they quietly rewrite the entire math. So let's take them one at a time, starting with the one that's costing you the most money without you even noticing. It's called interest, and here's the part that surprises almost everyone. Most of your mortgage payment isn't actually paying for your house. Not at first. Think of your mortgage like a bucket. Every month you pour money in, but before any of it reaches your equity, the bank takes its cut first. That's the interest. Picture pushing a boulder up a hill. At the very start, almost all your energy just gets it moving. Barely any progress shows. A mortgage works the same way. In the early years, most of your payment covers interest, and only slowly does more of it start chipping away at what you actually owe. Sell the house after 2 or 3 years, and you might be shocked by how little of the loan you've actually paid down. Now imagine a second bill that never takes a day off. Property taxes. It doesn't matter if the market is booming or crashing, or if your mortgage is brand new or almost paid off. This bill keeps coming. It funds schools and local services, and the amount depends entirely on where you live. Unlike your mortgage, none of it builds equity. Once it's paid, it's simply gone. Then there's insurance. Most first-time buyers barely think about it until they're required to carry it. In areas hit by hurricanes, wildfires, or flooding, premiums have climbed sharply in recent years, even for homeowners who've never filed a single claim. Insurers are simply pricing in more risk. Again, none of it builds ownership, it just protects what you already have. And then comes the one every homeowner eventually meets face to face: maintenance. Houses don't stay new. Roofs age. Water heaters fail. Air conditioners quit in the middle of July. Owning a home means agreeing to take care of it for as long as you live there. Some years the bills are small. Other years, one repair wipes out months of careful budgeting. That's why financial planners often suggest a separate emergency fund just for the house. Not because something will definitely break this year, but because eventually something almost always does. At this point, you might be thinking buying a home sounds like a trap. Hold that thought, because this is exactly where most people swing too far in the other direction. Yes, homeowners carry costs, renters don't. but they also get something renters don't, and it's quietly built more wealth for more Americans than almost anything else in personal finance. It's called leverage, and once you see how it works, you'll never look at a mortgage the same way again. Imagine wanting to own a $1 million asset. Most people assume you'd need $1 million sitting in the bank, but that's not how buying a home works. You might put down 20% and sometimes even less, and the bank covers the rest. That means you're controlling a much bigger asset with a much smaller amount of your own money. If that home's value climbs 10%, you don't just profit on your down payment. You profit on the appreciation of the entire property. It's one of the most powerful advantages in homeownership. But here's the twist nobody warns you about. Leverage cuts both ways. It doesn't just amplify your gains, it amplifies your losses too. That's why buying a home is never a guaranteed path to wealth. Timing, location, and how long you stay matter far more than most people realize. Rewind to 2008. Homeowners across the country watched their property values fall fast, some owing more than their homes were even worth. The ones who came out fine weren't the lucky ones. They were the ones who stayed long enough for prices to recover. The lesson was never that buying is bad. It's that a home is a long game, not a quick trade. That brings us to two words people constantly mix up: appreciation and equity. Appreciation is your home's value going up. Equity is the slice of the home you actually own. Say you buy a $500,000 house with a $100,000 down payment. On day one, you own that down payment plus whatever principal you've paid. The bank owns the rest. As you keep making payments, your slice grows. If the home's value rises too, it grows even faster. Here's the catch. Equity isn't cash sitting in your checking account. It's wealth locked inside the walls of your house. Say you suddenly need $50,000 for an emergency. You can't sell your kitchen. To turn equity into spendable cash, you usually have to sell the house or borrow against it. That's why real estate is called an illiquid asset, valuable but hard to access quickly. Compare that to a portfolio of index funds where you can sell a slice without touching the rest. So does that mean investing always wins? Not so fast, because we're about to reach the one factor that changes this entire debate, and it has nothing to do with mortgage rates or the stock market. It comes down to a single question. How long are you actually planning to stay? Let's make this real. Picture two people, Emily and Michael, both 32. Similar income, similar savings. Emily buys a home. Michael signs a lease. 3 years later, Emily gets a job offer in another state, $25,000 more a year. The kind of offer you don't turn down, but she can't just pack a bag. She has to sell her house first. Closing costs, moving expenses, sometimes agent commissions. If home prices haven't moved much, a real chunk of her equity disappears just getting out the door. Michael, meanwhile, gives his landlord 30 days notice, rents a truck, and starts his new job a few weeks later. That's the quiet power of renting. When your career is still climbing, the ability to move fast can be worth more than any house. Now fast forward 10 more years. This time, Emily stayed put. Her payments slowly chipped away at the loan. Her income grew. The home appreciated. Without ever thinking about it day to day, she built real equity. Michael did well too, and he rented responsibly and invested what he saved every single month, rain or shine. But here's the sentence that trips up almost everyone watching this video. If I rent, I'll just invest the difference. It sounds smart. It's also one of the hardest promises to actually keep. Every online calculator assumes you'll invest that money every month for 20 or 30 years straight. No skipping it for a vacation. No pausing when the market drops. Behavioral economists have studied this for decades, and the same pattern shows up again and again. People rarely fail because they lack information. They fail because life gets in the way, and this is where a mortgage has an advantage that never shows up on a spreadsheet. It creates structure. That required monthly payment forces many people to save in a way they'd probably never manage on their own. So ask yourself honestly, if renting saved you $500 a month, would you actually invest every single dollar every single month for 20 years? If your answer is yes, renting and investing can be a genuinely powerful strategy. But if you know that money would quietly slip away into dinners out and online shopping carts, the comparison changes completely. Wealth isn't built by the plan that looks best on paper. It's built by the plan you'll actually stick to. Which brings us to the mistake that costs Americans billions of dollars a year. They ask, can I afford the monthly payment? The better question is, can I afford everything that comes after it? Picture this. You've just moved into your first home. Boxes are unpacked. Friends come over to celebrate. For a few weeks, everything feels perfect. Then one morning, you walk into the basement and find water everywhere, and the heater's failed. A few months later, the air conditioner dies in the middle of July. Then a storm tears part of the roof. None of this happened because you made a bad decision. It happened because homes age. Experienced homeowners will tell you the purchase price is just the ticket to get in the door. The real cost is everything that comes after. Compare that to renting at the water heater breaks and you make one phone call to the landlord. Less responsibility, but also less control. Neither side is free, they're just different. Even qualifying for a mortgage doesn't guarantee you're making a smart move. Banks look at your income, your debt, and your credit score to decide how much they're willing to lend you. But what a bank approves and what actually lets you sleep peacefully at night are two very different numbers. Picture two families. Both qualify for the exact same loan. The first buys at the very top of their budget. The second buys something more modest and keeps a healthy emergency fund sitting untouched. A year later, life throws both of them a curveball, a layoff, a medical bill, a slower economy. Which family feels less pressure? Almost always, it's the one that left themselves room to breathe. That's why buying below your maximum budget can be one of the smartest financial moves you'll ever make. It's also how people avoid becoming what's known as house poor, where so much income disappears into housing that saving for retirement starts to feel impossible. So instead of asking, what's the most expensive house I can buy? Try asking, what's the least expensive house that still gives me the life I want? There's one last piece of the puzzle, and it can completely flip the answer even for two people with the exact same income: where you live. Buy in a smaller city where mortgage costs sit close to local rents, and the math looks nothing like buying in a coastal city where home prices have sprinted far ahead of rent for years. Real estate isn't one market. It's thousands of local ones, and a strategy that works beautifully in one city can be a costly mistake 2 states over. So how does all of this actually come together? If you're likely to move again in the next few years, renting usually wins. It protects you from the real cost of buying and selling on a short timeline. If you're ready to settle down, have a stable emergency fund, and plan to stay put for years, buying starts looking a lot more attractive because time lets you build equity while spreading those one-time costs across many years instead of a few. But whichever way you're leaning, avoid the one mistake that quietly destroys more wealth than any bad interest rate ever could: deciding out of fear. Some people buy because they're terrified of being priced out forever. Others refuse to buy because they're convinced a crash is right around the corner. Fear always feels rational in the moment. It rarely is. Start with your own finances, not the headlines. Can you afford the monthly cost without draining your emergency fund? Can you keep saving for retirement? Can you handle a surprise repair or a sudden rent increase? Those questions matter far more than guessing where prices will be next year. Because no economist, no investor, and no influencer can consistently predict that. Markets rise, markets fall, rates change, but your financial habits stay with you through all of it. Someone who lives below their means, keeps an emergency fund, and invests consistently has a far better shot at building real wealth than someone who simply buys the biggest house a bank will approve. So, is renting better than buying? Not always. Is buying better than renting? Not always either. The real winner was never determined by the address on your mailbox. It's determined by whether your housing choice helps you build wealth or quietly stands in the way of it. A house is first a place to live, and only after that a financial decision. If buying gives you stability and fits comfortably inside your budget, it can be one of the best decisions you'll ever make. If renting gives you the freedom to grow your career and invest without stretching thin, that's just as smart. Don't let social media convince you there's only one right path. There isn't. The smartest decision is the one that still makes sense years from now, not just the one that feels exciting today. Before you go, try this. Skip the real estate app. Skip the call to the lender. Just grab a piece of paper, write down the real monthly cost of renting a home that fits your life. Then write down the real monthly cost of buying a comparable one. Not just the mortgage, but the taxes, the insurance, the maintenance, the HOA fees if they apply, and room for the repairs you can't predict. Now compare both numbers against your income and ask yourself, can I still save for retirement? Can I still invest consistently? Can I still enjoy my life without dreading the next bill? If the answer is yes, you're probably looking at a decision you can genuinely afford. If it's no, that's valuable information too. Financial freedom was never about owning the biggest house on the block. It's about having choices and sleeping well because your finances are working for you, not against you. Some of the wealthiest people in America rent because it gives them flexibility. Some own because they value stability. Neither one automatically makes someone smarter. What matters is whether the decision fits your goals, your income, your city, and your future, because personal finance is personal, and there was never going to be one answer that fits everyone. If this video changed the way you think about renting versus buying, let me know in the comments, and I'd love to hear where you're watching from, and whether you're renting, buying, or still deciding. I'm John, and here we turn complicated money topics into simple, practical lessons you can actually use. Subscribe, because every week we break down real financial decisions with research, not hype, helping you build wealth one smart decision at a time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.